Hi, and welcome to the Image Critiques for the week of August 20th, 2014. I'm Gary D. Tonicourt, and I'm coming to you from morethanasnapshot.com. If you'd like to have your images critiqued, just join our class. You can find the information at morethanasnapshot.com. Well, here we are starting with some great images. Here we have a child climbing, looks like a tree or a branch or a log or something like that, and if we start off with the interest and impact, of course, it is very cool. Um, I like the tones that the wood and the sand sort of have some similar tones in them. I like how you've used the rule of thirds where we have sort of offsetting the child in the upper third and some wood down here at the bottom. I wonder though if we shouldn't crop off some of this log. It might be too much log. We'll check that out in a minute. As far as the child, you caught the child in action. It's very interesting. I'm sure the parents would love this kind of image. Um, and you have a nice background, no distractions. The exposure looks good. The image is sharp. So technically there's no problems there. Um, Maybe I'd like to see a little more engagement with the child, but it's pretty good. Let's see if we were to crop some of this log out, if that would help. Um, I think I like it better with a little less log, but I'm sure everybody has a little bit different opinion about that. So if we want to see the before and after, nope, but anytime you crop it, for some reason Lightroom always just shows you the before, so I'll have to click that to see. To me, there was just a lot of room here that we didn't need, and I think the image looks a little more balanced when it is cropped. Just my choice, and I think it brings us closer to the child, making that part of the image look better. Um, Someone in the comments had asked, how do you get the soft look of the background? That comes from what f-stop the image was shot at. It's not showing us the metadata, so I can't tell from this, but probably a fairly wide open f-stop, so maybe something like 2.8 or maybe f4. Those kinds of f-stops will give you a shallow depth of field, and that's how you get that look. All right, very good. This image is very nice. We've seen some B images from this person before, and I think this one is finally really getting there. It's really improved on the impact factor. It's much more interesting to see more of the bee. Um, the bee's face is in focus. We can see all the little pollen, um, and the background is totally nice. There's no distractions, nice and clean. It's a little bit darker, which is great. The flower looks good. It's a white flower, and it's not overexposed, and sometimes white can, as you know, overexpose. So the exposure and the sharpness and all the technical details look great, and I think this time you really upped it by having a more interesting bee, more facing the camera. Just a great job. Here we have the human body exhibit. And this is a really cool image. It's obviously a really cool and impactful subject. Some people may say kind of gross, but definitely very nice. What I like about it is what you did with the composition. We have the body on the right side and then the mirror image on the left side. It's a nice diagonal line. It's a nice balance of the visual weight from one side of the image to the other. It's a great way of using the rule of thirds. So we even have a mirror image of the body in the back here, so we can even see some more of what this human sculpture looks like. So again, I think it's a great job. This image is a sunset, and it's got a silhouette in the front, so I like the fact that it's got foreground interest. It's got some middle ground interest and some background interest. The lighting is great. The exposure looks good. Um, maybe maybe pump it up just a little bit, make it a little bit brighter. Um, I think maybe that adds a little more pop to it. But other than that, um, not much to say. It's a nice image. Let's see if the before and after on making it brighter helps. I think so. I think it has a little more punch having it a little bit brighter. We can push that exposure right to the edge as long as we're not, going way overexposed. I think we're good. Here we have an image of some interesting buildings and nice clouds in the background. Has sort of an HDR feel to it, and so it's pretty cool. I think that the edginess of the clouds with the building really works well. Here we have a self-portrait, so it's someone new to the class. Welcome to the class. With the self-portraits, I'm realizing this is your first assignment, so I really don't want to critique them too much because you really haven't had time to really dive into the lessons very much. So I hate to tear apart the images. But since we're looking at it, I think you had the right idea. You put yourself in an interesting place to create sort of an environmental portrait, showing us you in some environment that's interesting. The problem is when you do that, you have to be careful that there's not, you know, distracting things. And I think that having the water shoot right at your head and right behind your head is a little bit strange. Um, Maybe it could have been done at a slightly different angle where it didn't look quite so strange. Also, it's okay. It's interesting to have the carousel in the background here. It's a counterweight. You did a good job with composition. You're in a third of the frame. The carousel's in a third of the frame. It's a nice balance in the image. But then we have this character walking through the background that looks like he's waving at us. Hello. And so obviously, if you were using some sort of a timer or remote, you wouldn't know that. But just something to keep in mind. Sometimes a big part of photography is not just being able to take a good picture, it's also being able to be a good critic of your work. And when you look through a series of pictures you've taken, everybody takes bad pictures. There are no photographers that don't take bad pictures. So you take a series of images and you have to be really critical about which ones you pull out as being your good ones to show people. And this is not a bad image, it just has some quirky little things that in my mind might exclude it from something that I would select. As far as on some technical details, you do appear to be in focus, but it looks like it was shot at a very high ISO because I can see lots of noise, this sort of grainy look, and that's taking away from the clarity and the sharpness of the picture. So you got to watch out for that sort of thing. I don't know how much light you had, but it didn't seem like you needed to shoot at that high of an ISO. Looks like it's daytime. Um, when we look at the histogram, we have a slight bit of overexposure in the sky here. And if you can compose a shot that does not include the sky, that will always make your exposure easier because the sky is always brighter than the ground. So that's one way you could help eliminate that kind of overexposure. In this case, if it was a raw file, we could drag in that highlight and then pump up the midtones a bit and not have that overexposed area. So that kind of took care of that. The other thing is on the shadow side, we have a little bit of room here where maybe we want a little more contrast. So I can add some blacks, and that gives it a little punch, a little bit of contrast to the image, and we're not underexposing anything. The other thing is, like we said, there is a lot of noise in this image, so I could try the noise reduction tool and try to pump that up a bit, and that helped quite a bit getting rid of some of that noise. So very good job. You did some things right and you did some things that maybe could be better, but that's how you learn, and we'll hope to see more images from you. Here we have another self-portrait, and again I'll make some comments, but don't worry about it. It's your first image in the class, and you probably haven't had time to really get into it all that much. I really like the idea of what you're doing here, putting yourself in a nice garden environment. And so this part of the image is all, really cool and interesting. Exposure wise, we can see here that we have a little bit of overexposure. Again, it's in the sky up there, so we'll just pull down the highlights a bit, and I'll pump up the midtones a bit to bring back some of that. And now we don't have that overexposure in the sky. Blacks are looking pretty good. Maybe I'll move it over just a touch, give us a little more contrast. I sort of like, again, that sort of the diagonal between the interesting flowers, especially the white color really grabs your attention and to your face. What I don't really like seeing is the cars in the parking lot over here, and maybe even the building, but maybe you could have found maybe a lower composition where it was maybe more of you in the flowers. As far as cropping this, we could maybe do something to help this out by getting rid of some of the cars on the left, putting you in third, maybe even getting rid of some of the building. Something more like that. Simplifies the image a bit and has a little bit less distraction. The other thing is, with an image like this, since you're sort of in the back, we have to concern ourselves with depth of field. And the question becomes, should the flowers in the front be in focus, and should you be in focus, or what? So we have to look at where the focus is and how it's going here. So totally in the front, it is not in focus. So we don't have the depth of field to cover the flowers that are in front, which could be okay if it's shot in the right way. Then we can see here this grass is starting to come into focus. As we move up, your face is in focus. We see it was windy. It might seem to be a little bit of motion blur. I don't know if you moved a little bit when the picture was taken, but it's not bad. And then even the tree and the building seem to be in focus. So to me, what went wrong here is maybe not what f-stop you picked, although I can't tell what f-stop you picked. But because I have grass sort of all the way back to the building being in focus, I have to wonder if it's where you placed your focusing point, where you focused. I'm guessing you probably focused on you, and that's why we have a third extended focus to the front, bringing us to around here somewhere, and 2/3 extended focus to the back, which is giving us the building in focus. And I think that there's a little bit of a problem with that, because the more interesting part is the flowers, and the less interesting part is the building. So if I would have had something out of focus, I would want it to be the building, and something in focus, I would want it to be the flowers. And so one way to correct that is, assuming you're using the right f-stop, a smaller f-stop, maybe something in the f11 to f16 range, you would have focused a third of the way into the scene, which to me would have been about this red flower right here. And that would have given you a third extended focus to the front and 2/3 extended focus to the back. Another way you could have done it is just used a wide open f-stop, maybe something like a 2.8 f4, so whatever your lens will go up to. And when you just focus on you, that way you would have gotten blurred in the front and blurred in the back. So I think it could work in either way. But in any case, as far as the composition goes, I think you needed to be lower in the picture so that the grass is your background and the flowers are next to you, and that we don't see the building. Just my opinion, but I think that would make a stronger image. Good job, though. And it's a short week. That's the last image. So let's get those images submitted and get out there and practice. It's the only way that you're going to get better, is to go out and try new things. And sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong, but don't worry about it. That's how you learn. So see you again next week. This has been Gary D. Tonnencourt from morethanasnapshot.com.